Dan Bongino. Dan, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, happy to do it. So good to meet you in person. You do such great work.
Thank
So I've
you
been very
so much.
impressed. So.
Well, we wanted to ask you, particularly because this is so topical. You were in the Secret Service for 12 years, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about this White House cocaine situation?
Yeah, I get a lot of questions about this. So here's the deal. There's no way that this should have went down the way it did. Let me just say, as a personal plea to my former colleagues in the Secret Service, who I adore and love, don't do to that agency what the FBI did to itself. Okay. If you're not familiar with how Secret Service security works at the White House, without getting into details, but enough where you'll understand what happened. When you go in the West Wing, right, it's totally different than the East Wing. The West Wing is a limited access area. The East Wing is large. They do tours. Thousands of people go through there, okay? Ushers, staff, whatever. The West Wing is limited access, even more limited access on the weekend. And not that many people can get tours. It's really hard. People used to come to me for tours of the West Wing all the time. And I was like, I can't do anything for you. They're limited access. So there's probably less than 200 people who could have left this cocaine, by the way, in a bag, which is plastic, which is non-porous, meaning it's probably not that hard to pull a latent print. They got to know who did it. The question is, who's pressuring them to find out, to not find out who did it, and it's got to be coming from this White House. This is terrible. Just don't destroy this agency like you did the FBI. It's really unbecoming. And one more thing. A lot of my former colleagues in the Secret Service who retired, they are absolutely furious about this.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I tell you, I got 50 emails, communications, texts from people. This is embarrassing, humiliating. These are good guys, man. Guys who've worked for Obama and Bush, the nonpartisan guys. Most of them aren't even political. This is embarrassing. They know exactly who it was.
Wow. So do these people want it to come out that it was probably Hunter Biden?
Well, the question is it Hunter or one of his friends? But here's the thing. So I'm in the Secret Service 12 years, a good amount of time. We never had this problem. So nobody by Occam's razor, right? The process of deduction, keep things simple, keep it simple, stupid, Occam's razor. Right? You got this guy, we never found coke in there before. You got a dude who's doing coke on tape, who's got a reputation of being a cokehead. He's living in the White House. He's there on Friday. The coke's found on Sunday, and everybody's like, gosh, who could it be? I mean, this is it reminds me of that Jon Stewart bit with the COVID lab with Stephen Colbert. I don't know. What could have done it? Your card says the Wuhan coronavirus lab. Who could have done it? This is one of those crazy stories where you're begging them, please don't do this. You're going to destroy faith in this elite agency. Remember, the Secret Service motto is worthy of trust and confidence. That's literally their motto. Don't do this. They know who did this. It is probably him or someone in his small circle of people. They know who it was. Get the job done, do the right thing, and just move on. I know it's going to be tough politically, but you got to have some guts here.
Yeah, speaking of, you brought up the FBI and how the department has been really corrupted. Do you have concerns that if Donald Trump is the nominee, if he's going to be president again, that he will face any more attacks from the intelligence communities?
Yeah, I mean, again, just basing it on a process of simple deduction. They hit us in 2016. They hit us in 2018. They hit us in 2020. 2016, 2018, we had Spygate and the Mueller probe. 2020, we had the magic disappearance of the Hunter laptop. Even in the midterms in 2022, we still had various leaks and indictments and attacks on Trump. There's no reason a sane person would believe that there are not going to be additional attacks. So it genuinely worries me. The good news, if there is kind of a bright side, which there really shouldn't be to this deep state swamp we're living in, is that Americans now get it. I could make the case to you. Now listen, I love Ron DeSantis, best governor in the country. I'm not here to badmouth. I'm endorsing Trump. I think Donald Trump's the best candidate, but I think this inter-party stuff is getting a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
DeSantis is great, but if I had to point to one moment where candidly I think his campaign changed, I think it was the response to the Mar-a-Lago raid and the indictments afterwards. I think the American people, they were a little upset. I mean, I'm not here to give him political, again, he's a great governor. I think he's got a bright political future. I'm for Trump, but that doesn't mean I'm anti-DeSantis in any way. But I use that example not to bash him at all, but just to say that the American people get it now. And I think they understand in the greatest backfire in American history that these constant, never-ending attacks on Donald Trump are really just fueling Donald Trump's rise back in. Look at the polls. They changed after the indictments, did they not? I mean, there were some polls showing him neck and neck. And now all of a sudden he's 30 points ahead in some of these early swing states. They get it. So if there is one bright side to it, it's that.
Now, I think it's really interesting, some of these media attacks on DeSantis that I've seen lately coming from the left. They remind me of the attacks that I saw on Donald Trump a while ago. And I've heard a lot of people saying, well, you should be paying attention to how badly the media hates Ron DeSantis. Do you think you should put any stock in that?
Yeah, I think they see DeSantis as a natural, young, fresh-faced continuation of this MAGA movement that started. Listen, the Republican Party is starting to reorient itself. Instead of taking a back seat and getting our butts kicked in the culture wars, you're now seeing Republicans actively move in and address the culture wars ourselves. And Ron DeSantis did that in Florida, I believe, to great benefit of the country, and showed other governors a model. I mean, come on, think about it. Like, no one wins an election in Florida by more than 1 point. It is like the swing. 1 point's a landslide for him. He won by 20, and because people are upset about this stuff and they're kids. So I think they fear DeSantis because they know Trump is a threat, but he's a limited threat. He can't run for re-election. He's out. I think the media is saying, hey, we don't want this guy and we hate him a lot, but all right, we'd only have to deal with him 4 more years. When you look at this younger generation, I'll make another case to you. And forget DeSantis for a moment. You know, he's great, and I think he is the future. But what about Vivek? Vivek is, don't sleep on Vivek Ramaswamy either. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that, I mean, if you watch him on the campaign, you notice he never gets caught? Ever. There's no question it seems he hasn't thought through. And I'll tell you, I have a ton of respect for this guy. I think he could be up for a high-level cabinet position, and I think he could surprise some people with a 2 or 3 finish. And you might see this guy in a short spot for even VP, and definitely a political future.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And not DeSantis in those
No,
positions.
DeSantis. I think DeSantis' future is bright. I don't think his time is now, but I think his future is absolutely huge. But we got this great bench. Ted Cruz, you got DeSantis, you got Mike Lee out there. You know, I don't think they're going to run for president, but you got Vivek. I mean, you got all these wonderful, awesome people. What do the Democrats have? You have AOC, like that's your future. Bernie Sanders, that's your future. Bernie moaning about millionaires and billionaires. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, I mean, Elizabeth Warren doesn't even know Elizabeth Warren. She wants other people to know. I mean, it's crazy. So I think our future is really bright. There's this.
They're telling me I got to cut, but I want to ask you about your book really quick.
Oh,
Tell me, what is this new book?
So it's available for pre-order now. It's called The Gift of Failure. And long and short of it is, you know, everybody writes books about how successful and great they are. Oh, look at me, I'm worth millions of dollars, blah, blah, blah. I said to my wife, forget that. I want to write a book about everything I screwed up. The book's candid, it's frank, sometimes embarrassing, but I think it's important that I write about this stuff so you understand, like getting this big radio show and this podcast and money and all that stuff. It didn't come from nowhere. It came from failure, not successes. It was the successes after the failure that mattered. So the book's coming out. It's available now for pre-order, called The Gift of Failure. I appreciate that.
That's so exciting, and it's such an important message. Thank you, Dan, so much. We are honored to have you here.